Hi, everybody. This is Julie Johnson. I'm the chair of the Landmark Preservation Commission. We are currently, it's 1 o'clock, but we're currently waiting for an attorney who may be walking through the door. He did walk through the door, even as I started speaking. So, oh, I don't have a gavel, but I can still call the meeting to order at 1 o'clock. This is the September 3rd, 2024 Landmark Preservation Commission meeting, and welcome all of you joining us virtually and in person. The first thing that we do is we introduce ourselves to y'all. Like I said, I'm Julie Johnson. I'm a Historic Preservation Project Manager, and I was nominated by the community at large. Emily, would you like to start?
Hi, I'm Emily Hazen, preservationist and designer, and nominated by City Planning.
I'm Larry Sykes. I'm an architect, and I was nominated by History Colorado.
I'm Nick Fusianis. I'm an architect and developer, and I was nominated by the American Institute of Architects.
I'm Erica Warzel. I'm an architectural historian and preservation consultant nominated by the community at large.
I'm Rusty Brown, an architect, and was nominated by AIA.
My name is Chris McInnes. I am a forensic architect, and I was nominated by the mayor's office.
And I'm Brittany Bryant, Denver Landmark Preservation staff.
Thanks, everybody. The first item on our agenda is meeting records for approval. Those were the August 20, 2024 minutes. Did anyone have any changes, corrections, concerns with said minutes? Do I hear a motion then from the floor to accept them?
Motion to accept.
Emily has made a motion to accept the meeting minutes for approval as presented. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Larry has seconded. All in favor, aye? Aye. Any opposed? All right, they have been approved. Thanks, staff. All right, before we go any further, I will, for those of you joining us virtually, go over a few audio tips for you. For better sound quality, we strongly encourage you to download Zoom on your desktop, laptop, tablet, or mobile device. Then you can click audio settings to bring up an additional menu, add a background noise suppression. You can test your speaker and microphone and adjust their maximum output volumes. For presenters or public commenters, when it is your turn to speak, to mute or unmute, you can click on the little microphone icon at the bottom of your screen. Expanding the menu next to the microphone will reveal additional options, such as selecting your speaker and microphone devices. You can test your microphone and speakers and adjust their maximum output volumes. If you still have audio challenges, you can switch to phone for audio. Alrighty, the next item on our agenda are public comments. This is a time that we reserve at the beginning of every meeting for public comments from anyone here in person or virtually. And you'll be given 2 minutes to speak on comments about historic preservation in general. This does not include any information about any of the projects that we are reviewing later. Just historic preservation in Denver in general. To speak, either raise your hand or you can click your hand raise button in Zoom. You can dial *9 on your keypad to raise your hand if joining by phone. You can email landmark@denvergov.org with your name and phone number if you're having difficulty with either hand raise option. Anybody here want to speak, just general? Nope, doesn't look like it. Okay, great. Anybody in virtual land that would like to speak on preservation in general? Let's see, is there a hand raised? Nope, okay, great. Alrighty, seeing none, we would normally go on to our consent agenda, but there are no items on our consent agenda during this meeting. So let's go on to our design review process. I will announce the design review items on the agenda in order by address. The commission members will need to announce any ex parte contacts and conflicts of interest. The staff will introduce the application and make a recommendation, and commissioners can question staff. The applicant presentation follows that, and the applicant gives a presentation, and they are limited to 10 minutes. Commissioners can question the applicant if they would like. After the applicant's presentation, we have a public comment period, and that's 2 minutes per person. If you would like to speak regarding a specific project and you are not part of that applicant team, please click the hand raise button. For those calling via phone, dial *9 to raise your hand. Excuse me, if you're having difficulty with either hand raise options, email landmark@denvergov.org with your name and phone number. Staff can clarify if necessary after the public comment period. The commission will deliberate, commission will make a motion and vote. And also I'd like everybody to remember that the Preservation Commission cannot consider any information included in the that was not included in the application materials on the LPC meeting website. So we can't consider anything that's additional that's brought to us after that was published on the website. All right, then let's just dive in and get going. Our first design review project is 2024-COA-443 at 655 Gilpin Street in East 7th Avenue. And Andrew Abbey is our staff person. Hi, Andrew.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you very well. Begin when you're ready.
So I'm Andrew Abbey, Landmark Preservation.
yeah.
Oh,
One
you know what,
second,
Andrew, I'm sorry. I did forget to ask if there was anybody that
Oh.
might need to recuse himself on.
As a matter of fact, I need to recuse myself on this matter.
Okay, great.
Great.
Normally we would have you leave the room, but as you are also the applicant and property owner, you may stay, but you will need to leave the table.
Okay.
Yeah, that's. Great. Thanks, Nick, and thanks for the reminder. Sorry about that, everybody. All right, Andrew, I'm sorry. Now you can begin when you're ready.
Just a small sidebar before I begin. I'm a bit under the weather with COVID, so I apologize in advance if I have
Yeah.
to turn off my camera. It's just that time of year. So please bear with me and thank you for all your patience while I read through. So the project we're looking at today is located at 655 North Gilpin Street. This property is situated in the East 7th Avenue Historic District on the western side of Gilpin Street between 6th and 7th Avenues. Pictured here outlined are some existing photos of the home and a few neighboring properties with similar characteristics provided by the applicant. The home was originally constructed as a single-story brick bungalow shown in the staff report on the 1929 Sanborn map. For context, the East 7th Avenue Historic District was established by city ordinance in 1993. Just prior to the district's creation that same year, the then homeowners removed the original roof and added a second story to the home, finished with a front-facing gable. Additionally, the scope also included a rear two-story addition and a walkout rear deck. Next slide, please, Brittany. So the current homeowner has applied for siding alterations to the home that staff feel would have minimal impact to the residents and not distract from the remaining historic features. The 1993 scope of work included finishing the second story with a stucco base coat topped with vertical and horizontal LP SmartSide trim pieces that gave the home a faux half-timbered Tudor Revival look. The faux trim pieces are located on each of the 4 elevations of the non-historic additions. The homeowner is looking to remove a large majority of the non-historic trim pieces and leave only some key horizontal pieces using existing material as shown in the applicant's submitted drawings. The current homeowner's initiative is seeking to make the residence more compatible with the overall district by reconfiguring the layout of the existing faux wood grain trim pieces. Due to the age of the addition and its construction prior to the district creation, staff feel that the applicant is respecting the character-defining features of the district and the immediate surrounding historic context. The pre-district additions and siding alterations have faux grain wood trim throughout. Our current guidelines prohibit any new versions of such siding from being installed on structures within historic districts. Staff feel that because the applicant is proposing a repurposing of existing trim pieces without the application of any new material on a non-historic second-story addition, that this scope of work meets the intent of the guidelines. Because of this, staff are recommending approval based on guidelines 3.3-A and 3.6-F-G-H. And as a final statement, the staff report does address other minor work being proposed that can be approved administratively. So the focus of this design review in the aforementioned applied criteria is only relevant to the proposed siding alterations. Thank you all, and please let me know if there are any questions.
Thanks, Andrew. Let's see. Commissioners, any questions for staff? It doesn't look like it. Thank you very much, and I hope you feel better. All right, our applicant here today. Can you please have a seat, and you will be given 10 minutes to make your presentation. And at the beginning of the presentation, please give us your name and address for our records.
Sure. Do I need to do anything with the camera?
Can you turn it on?
How do I do
And if you need assistance, let me know.
that? I need assistance. Sorry.
No, it's okay.
Oh, there.
Yay, there you go.
Very good. My name is Nick Fusianis. I live at 655 North Gilpin in Denver, Colorado. And this is the residence that I share with my wife. I don't have anything further to add beyond Andrew's comprehensive report and comments. My goal is simply to make the house appear a little more unidirectional, horizontal that is, versus vertical, whereas it seems to be torn in two directions now. And then the consideration for the rough siding versus the smooth siding as an exception, since 90% of what's remaining is already rough sided. So just any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Okay, great. Commissioners, any questions for our applicant? All right, well done. We have no questions. Alrighty. If there's anybody, doesn't look like there's anyone here in person that would like to make a public comment. If you are joining us virtually and would like to make a public comment, you can click the hand raise button on Zoom, dial *9 on your keypad to raise your hand if joining by phone, or you can email landmark@denvergov.org with your name and phone number if you're having difficulty with either hand raise option, at which point you will be given 2 minutes to provide comment. All right, nobody here probably? All right, I don't see anyone with a hand raised. All right, excellent. Andrew, did you have any, is he still there?
He's still there.
Okay, hey, Andrew, did you have any other additional comments before we go into deliberation?
Nope, I should be all set. Thank you though, Julie.
Excellent, sure. All right, commissioners, then let us go into deliberation. What are your thoughts?
It's very minimal scope, and given, you know, the circumstances of having been constructed prior to the district being formed and working with what they've got, I think it meets the guidelines.
Okay, Chris, did you want to say something?
No, not at all. No, I think that it's a pretty simple alteration.
Okay, anybody else? All right, then if there's no further discussion, then let's, do I hear a motion from the floor?
Madam Chair, I move to approve application number 2024-COA-443 for the siding alterations at 655 North Gilpin Street as per design guidelines 3.3 and 3.6, presented testimony, submitted documentation, and information provided in the staff report.
Erica, thank you. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Rusty has seconded it. All in favor, aye? Aye. Any opposed, nay? All right, applicant, you have been successful. And you may now rejoin us at the table. Bye, Andrew, feel better. All righty, moving right along. Our next project is 2024-COA-458 at 3256 Alcott Street in Potter Highlands. And before we get going, anybody ex parte, any conflicts of interest? No? Okay, great. Alrighty, our staff person is Crystal. Crystal, take it away when you are ready.
Thanks, Julie.
Don't hurt yourself.
This is the nail seat.
Oh, great. Did we do that on purpose? I know, right?
We should get rid of those.
We need
Do
to
you
just
want
get
me-
rid of the nails.
Do you want me to advance your slides? Or-
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so this application is for a front porch violation and other minor violations at 3256 North Alcott Street in the Potter Highlands Historic District. It was built in 1905, according to assessor's records. A porch violation was discovered when the applicant submitted for a small rear addition. Landmark staff informed the applicant and property owner of the violation. We did ask if the previous porch could be reinstalled. The applicant did not want to do that, so they brought a proposal to the commission last year on July 11th, 2023, just to change the railing on the front porch. And that application was denied, so they're back today. Next slide. So here on the left, you can see some old Sanborn maps. On the second one down, the outline didn't outline the right property, so it's actually the one at the corner. But you can see that the porch has changed size over time from the 1904 to 25 Sanborn map, and then to the 1929, so within the period of significance. And then here on the right, you can see some Google Street views of the front porch. Let's see here. So these photos show the front porch in July 2008 at the top left, September 2011, I think right below it, and then June 2024, and then at the bottom right, you can see May of 2017 when they installed the waterfall steps and put those brick waterfall stairs to replace the wood stairs. And then by 2019, like I said, the existing front wood porch was completely replaced. And so the front porch only retains these existing like circular columns and the porch roof, but the whole base has been changed. Next slide. So the applicant has revised their proposal to change the brick waterfall stairs back to wood stairs that better match what previously existed. Change the existing railing to a simple wood railing with a vertical picket, and add lattice work over the existing brick porch base. They have proposed to paint the brick behind that black to help it recede and for the lattice to stand out. The applicants are proposing to keep the brick piers and brick decking that exists. Design guideline 2.37 says to preserve an original porch or stoop. The previous wood porch and stairs were removed from the house and replaced with those concrete and brick porch and the waterfall style stairs. The new front porch does not maintain original porch components, finishes, or details, but is being altered now to better match what was previously there, such as the wood stairs and the addition of wood lattice at the base. The front porch does retain the overall orientation and size of the previous porch and steps. Design guideline 2.38 states, if necessary, repair and replace damaged porch elements. The existing concrete and brick porch is heavy and does have brick pier bump outs at the column locations and does not match the previous simple wood porch that existed. However, other front porches in the district do use brick and stone, so having only the brick piers be visible would lessen the heaviness of the porch, along with replacement of those brick waterfall stairs. Wood porch decking has been replaced with bricks, so staff suggested matching the previous wood decking at the front porch and added that as a condition, as the applicants would like to keep the current brick decking. Next slide. And then here you can see some of the other alterations that were done on the property. As you can see here, the garage door was replaced with a more modern style, as you can see in the picture in center bottom. There is also an existing spiral stair to the storage area above the garage and a wood rear yard fence. All of these things were completed without review or approval. The applicant has agreed to replace the garage door with a simple black garage door, and staff is supportive of keeping the spiral stairs and wood fence as they do not detract from the historic context. Therefore, staff is recommending approval with the condition that the decking at the front porch be changed to wood.
Crystal, thank you. Commissioners, any questions for Crystal?
Crystal, did you guys explore any other options as far as the design goes? Or was it just, let's go back to wood, or was there like, can we keep some of the elements that were redone and then?
I mean, they are proposing to keep some of the elements that were redone. They did mention previously that they did this at their own costs, a lot of money not realizing. So our guidelines say to go back exactly. We're recommending approval because we feel that it's already been changed and been there for several years, and it's going back enough to railings give the appearance. I think the stairs was a big issue. So I feel like this is a compromise in the middle. And that they've come back with the original proposal last July was just to change the railing. So I feel like this is a more middle ground compromise without going all the way back to all wood and having them completely tear out the whole porch and redo it.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Like, it's nice to see that even though it may not be strictly along the guidelines, that there is a little bit of give and take on both parties there.
Anybody else? No? Okay, Crystal, thank you very much. Alrighty, do we have our applicants joining us virtually? Hi there.
Hey there, can you hear me okay?
We can hear you beautifully. You will
Okay.
have 10 minutes to talk about your project, and at the beginning of that, if you could please give us your name and address for our records, that'd be great.
Yep, can do. So my name's Robin Adams, architect with ArcWest Architects. And I don't think we'll take 10 minutes here. Crystal has done a great job of recapping what's been a years-long effort in talking to staff, talking to the owner, and trying to, arrive at a, albeit compromise, but I think a solution that hopefully, is satisfactory to both the homeowner and Landmark and the neighborhood. Let me just say that, the owners, Bernie and Carol, when they first did this, I think they had good intentions. They're trying to improve their home. Maybe they're not following the HOA guidelines per se, but I don't think their intent was in a bad way, right? So, and what we're offering, or not offering, but what we're showing in our proposal here are different solutions with the porch. There's 3 key elements with that. The simple wood stairs, which is more reminiscent of the original. Railings that are more simpler, characteristic of other railings in the neighborhood. And then trying to capture the figure ground of porches in that area where there's the transparency below and then just kind of the structure, the figure of the porch by introducing that lattice and the painted black. So that's really the focus of the porch, and I think the focus of many of the violations. These other items were caught as the landmark inspectors went there. And so with that, we're looking to change out the garage door and yeah, that's really it. So with our proposals, we're trying to offer a cure to these 3 items, and we're asking for your approval to allow the owner to make those corrections to their property and hopefully cure the noted violations. So if there's any questions, I'm happy to address those, and I appreciate your time. We appreciate your time.
Great, Robin, thank you. Commissioners, any questions for the applicant?
Yeah, I've got
Larry?
a question. I guess a couple questions. One is that brick, the vertical brick, it's noted as a veneer in some places, but it looks in the section like it's a, double white wall. Can you talk a little bit more about how that's actually constructed?
Yeah, I mean, it is a true single white brick constructed on concrete, wrapped around the original porch post. So it wasn't a complete removal of the old porch. They basically kind of skinned the existing porch to create this new image of the porch that they thought was an improvement.
Okay.
Does that
And
make
then-
sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. And then
Okay.
on one of the drawings about the porch floor structure, it shows new blocking, but I thought that the idea was that you guys are proposing to leave the porch floor as it is what you're proposing. Is that true?
Yeah, I mean, ideally, we'd like to keep the brick. I mean, the way I look at it, and I certainly understand Landmark's position on this, all the elements are characteristic of the porch design. But I think in terms of the curb image of the porch and how it projects the character of the Landmark neighborhood, that porch finish has minimal impact to that, overall street view. And it's already there and durable. If Landmark requests and the conditional approval requires us removing that, then, that's what needs to be done. But we're asking, hopefully, that you guys understand our position.
I guess my question is about the blocking that's shown in there. Is that?
Okay.
is that drafting
Can
error?
you reference the drawing so I can see?
Yeah.
Like the perimeter, the wood perimeter?
No, on sheet 8, 3.1, drawing number 3. There's a plan view of the porch structure that shows the existing framing and then new blocking in between the existing porch joists.
Let me get to that application, that drawing in the application. I'm looking now. 831. So you're looking at section 1?
Section 3. Sorry,
Section-
plan drawing number 3. on the
Yeah.
upper left.
Yeah, so what the owner did was basically they had the existing wood joists and they came back and put in that blocking for additional strength and structural stability to the porch structure prior to the modifications.
So that's actually existing. Okay, that makes more sense. All right, that's all I was wondering.
Okay. Yeah, sorry for that confusion. I had to see the drawing.
That's okay. Anybody else? Question for Robin? No, doesn't look like it. Okay, great. Thank you very much. All right,
Thank you.
you're welcome. Let's see if we have anybody who would like to make a public comment. Do we have any? If you wish to, you can click your hand raise button in Zoom, dial *9 on your keypad of your phone, or email landmark@denvergov.org. Do we have anybody? Nope, it does not look like it. Okay, great. Crystal, did you have any other comments, additional comments? Okay, great. Then commissioners, let us go ahead and go into deliberation. What are your thoughts?
I guess I'll
Sure.
jump in
Sure.
and ask the question.
Absolutely.
I think this might have come up last time, but I don't recall. But I guess I still struggle to understand why leave the brick in place if it's not doing anything structural, and removing it wouldn't require any more work seemingly than putting up the lattice that they're already gonna bolt the brick. But that said, I'm not necessarily against the compromise that, they've worked out with Crystal, so.
Okay. All right.
What do you think about the wood decking versus the brick?
Good question. Yeah, I do agree with staff that I think that is something that you'll see from certain vantage points. And yeah, so I agree with that.
So you agree with staff? Okay, excellent. What are your thoughts, Erica?
Yeah, I agree with Larry. I can if this is the compromise that works for people, I think it's doable. But I agree that the wood is for the decking is preferred.
Yeah. Anybody else?
I just need a clarification, and maybe you guys understand better than I do. It looks like there's a wood surround around the brick. Is that not correct in that plan view? Like if you look at the detail 3 or plan view 3 on that A3.1 we were looking at, is that wood that surrounds the deck?
My understanding is that's like a kind of brick coping.
It's like a Roloc kind of course or something, or Turn the off.
Special.
So
okay,
staff is nodding.
so it's okay, it's not wood.
That's not wood. Okay, thank you, Crystal. Any other thoughts?
I think that the primary compromise has been, by far the most significant to bring it back to a, lighter and more historic. I do agree that the decking would definitely be preferable as wood, especially given the other compromises that have been made.
Emily, thank you. Nick, any thoughts?
I just wonder what the other commissioners feel, or what they feel about the detail of that lattice. And it's just showed floating and that there's no blocking behind it. How is that gonna, unless it's gonna be adhered somehow or affixed to the brick? Am I missing? I should have asked the architect this question. But maybe somebody understands the detail better than I do. It just seems like it's not connected at the top or the middle or the
Can we
bottom.
ask?
You can bring the architect
We can bring
back
the
since you
architect
have a
back,
question for
yeah.
them.
Robin, we're gonna try to bring you back.
Just to answer Nick's question.
There you are. Did you
Yeah,
hear
that-
Nick's question? Nick, you may need to
Yeah.
ask it again.
Do you need me to ask about the
Yeah,
lattice?
if you could restate the question for me, I was trying to follow along, but yeah, that would be helpful.
So in the detail, the section that shows the lattice in profile,
Okay.
it seems to be floating away from the brick, right?
Correct.
But there's no dimension. And there's no fastener shown at the top or the bottom or blocking between the lattice and the brick. And I'm just, this whole thing could, kind of hinges on how well that's detailed. If you want the brick to just become shadow.
Right.
So I wondered what your thoughts were on that, or what your plan was.
Yeah, I mean, similar to what we've shown, and I guess we overlooked having that blocking detail, but basically similar to the wood block that's at the top below the coping that you were just discussing. There would be anchors set into the wall to do that, and so that dimension is basically 2.5 inches, and so similarly, we would do the same thing for the lattice below. And I agree that detail is critical to having that look good and also be durable. So there would be similar blocking with expansion anchors or appropriate timber lock anchors that go back into the structure to hold that all together. And if I need to resubmit that or add that for approval, we can certainly provide that detail.
Yeah, the only comment I would have further is, I mean, that all makes sense, is I've just, as a friendly note, just make them pin connections, not a furring sort of lath connection, because you would see the wood behind the lattice, the block.
Yeah, no,
it's
that's
lit.
fair.
Yeah.
I'm thinking more of a spacer, like we've indicated
Yeah.
in that top connection.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
Thanks, Robin.
Yep.
Commissioners, any other thoughts?
Sounds like maybe we want to add that as a condition. if
Yeah.
we're Going that way.
All right, speaking of going that way, sounds like pretty much everybody is, we seem to be coming to an agreement with that additional condition. Would anybody like to take a shot at making a motion?
I will do it since I added that little.
That'd be great, Nick.
I think I have the right one up here. Just confirming it's Elka.
Correct.
Madam Chair, I move to approve with conditions application number 2024-COA-458 for the front porch and garage alterations at 3256 North Elcott Street as per design guidelines 2.37, 2.38, 2.41, 5.6 character defining features for the Potter Highlands Historic District, presented testimony, submitted documentation, and information provided in the staff report with the following conditions. 1, the front porch decking be changed to wood to better match the previous historic porch condition. And 2, that the proposed lattice beneath the new porch decking be affixed to the existing brick that is to be painted black with spacers and pin or lag bolt connections to that brick to secure it in place.
Great, thank you, Nick. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Larry has seconded it. All in favor, aye? Aye. Any opposed, nay? All right, it passes with the two conditions, and Robin, you and your client can work with the Landmark staff. And we will be on to our next design review project, which is 2024-COA-569. It's 65 South Bannock Street in the Baker District, and our staff person for this project is Brittany.
I'm just having minor technical difficulties. I had to restart my computer.
Tina doesn't like you today.
It does not, but we are up and running, so just 1 second.
Well done, you.
Okay. Don't know why it keeps giving me this security alert message. But anyways, so our next project on the agenda today is for 65 South Bannock Street, which is a contributing structure within the Baker neighborhood. This is a mid-block property. It is on a very shallow lot. It's the portion of Baker where there's not an alley behind this, and it backs up to houses. This is a house that is on a north-south street, and it backs up to houses that are on east-west street. So it's a very shallow lot. But the applicant is proposing to demolish the existing non-historic porch and reconstruct a new partial width porch with side patio to the north. The historic Sanborn maps do show that this home originally did have a partial width porch in roughly the same location as the proposed new partial width porch. The design guidelines do recommend when a porch is not present to construct a low scale patio to the side. So the applicant is proposing that condition. This will be a very simple concrete patio with a railing surrounding it. This is to provide some secure space on the property with the very shallow lot without fencing in the yard. The property owner does also own the property to the north, so they are being called sister houses, but they're not exactly the same, as the property to the north did have a full width porch historically. As part of the work on this home, it will be repainted. As you can see, it's in a fairly rough condition, but the property owner did just purchase the home. But with the porch scope, the front door will also be replaced. The front door is a non-historic door, so staff are not concerned about the replacement of that front door. The front door, as you can see here, is proposed to be a prairie style door. Staff are not inherently opposed to this style door, as the prairie style and Queen Anne style are somewhat contemporary, and this style of lights was common on Queen Anne style doors, so I've just provided some examples here of Queen Anne style doors. I will say though, typically you did see stained glass on those side lights. However, this is a modern interpretation, and the existing historic door is not historic. So we are comfortable with this replacement. However, we are requesting that the divided lights be a true divided light or simulated divided light with a spacer bar to create those shadow lines that you would historically see on a true divided light door. So we are recommending approval with that condition on the door.
Great. Commissioners, any questions for staff? No? Okay, terrific. All right, our applicants are here today. So whoever wishes to be part of the presentation team can have a seat up there. And you'll have 10 minutes to talk about the project, and please begin that 10 minutes with your name and address.
And if you could turn on the camera.
Got it. I know how to do this. Alrighty. Okay, well, thank you, everyone. My name is Anthony Gigaro. I'm with Catalyst Architecture Planning and Development. And thank you, Brittany, for summarizing this project for us. We have Patrick Schmitz, who is the owner of the property and the property to the north. So we are here today for approval for the patio and new front door. I would leave it at that ultimately.
Wow, that's a record for a presentation.
This is my first time sitting in front of you guys.
That's true. Well,
I've learned a
welcome.
lot already.
Well, I'm glad you're here. Welcome. Commissioners, do you have any questions for our applicant?
I have just one question. You have in that detail one on, what is it, A3, you have looks like a vapor barrier underneath the slab. And then the other detail, the turn down, you don't, you plan on putting a vapor barrier underneath the slab?
Yes.
Any other questions for the applicant? Well, see, you did such a good job on your first time that there weren't even any questions, so, except for the one. So thank you very much. Let's go see if we have any public comments. Anybody in the public would like to comment on this project? Do I see any hands raised? We do not. I don't see any. Okay, all right, then, Brittany, do you have any other additional comments?
I do not.
She does not have any addition. Okay, excellent. Commissioners, let us go into deliberation then. No?
He was asking if he should stay.
Oh, no, you have a seat. I'm sorry. Yeah, make yourself comfortable. Sorry about that. Commissioners, what are your thoughts on this?
I think it's fantastic. Have you seen coming back?
I am so excited you're taking care of this affordable house. Any other thoughts, commissioners? Okay, do I hear a motion from the floor?
Madam Chair, I
Erica.
move to approve with conditions application number 2024-COA-569 for the porch reconstruction and door replacement at 65 South Bannock Street, as per design guidelines 2.23 and 2.39, character defining features for the Baker Neighborhood Historic District, presented testimony, submitted documentation, and information provided in the staff report with the condition that the door have true divided lights or simulated divided lights with a spacer bar.
Erica, thank you. Second?
Second.
Larry has seconded it. All in favor, aye? Aye. Any opposed? All right, congratulations. Your project has been approved by the Landmark Commission. Yeah, and you can work with Brittany further in the project. Awesome, thank you. All right, let us move right on then to our next project, which is also Brittany's. 2024-LMDEMO-208 at 301 Gaylord Street in the Country Club District. And hopefully your computer will last that long.
It should be good now.
Okay, good.
So our next project is for a demolition of a non-contributing structure within the Country Club Historic District. This structure was constructed circa 1949, and the Country Club Historic District has a period of significance as defined by the Country Club Design Guidelines, which is prior to and including 1902 to 1945. So this structure was constructed 4 years outside of the period of significance. When considering structures that are constructed outside of the period of significance, we do look at the reasons the district was designated, and the Country Club Historic District was designated for its history. It's part of the development, heritage, and cultural characteristics of the city, state, or nation identified with persons or group of persons who had influence on society, and exemplifies cultural, political, and economic and social historic heritage of the community. Country Club was also designated for its architecture. It portrays an environment of a group of people characterized by its distinctive architectural style, the work of architects and masters who had influence on development of the city, state, and nation. And then finally, geography. So this is our older criteria, not our current designation criteria. And geography is defined as a distinct part or related to a square, park, or other distinctive area. So the land that became Country Club was originally owned by John Rittenheim, and following his death, his estates were sold off, and it was developed into a neighborhood known collectively as Fourth Avenue Realty Company. And Country Club development began first in the early 1900s, primarily in the Park Club Place edition of Country Club, which is to the west of this property. And then development continued into the mid to late 1920s, moving east into Park Lane Square and the Country Club Annex additions, which is where this is in the Park Lane Square area of Country Club. So many of the lots remained vacant till after World War II, and most of the development in Country Club did occur between 1910 and 1920s. Country Club is defined by very large homes on very large lots, and a revival styles such as Mission Revival, Tudor Revival, etc. in this portion of the neighborhood. So it's also described in the design guidelines as of two types, either Denver squares, also called four squares, or elaborate revival, eclectic revivals with variation on colonial and Mediterranean. There are a few examples of large and small bungalows that can also be found, and the urban form in Park Lane squares defined by curvilinear streets with no sidewalks. So staff feel that this structure is non-contributing as there is no official contributing or non-contributing list. This structure was constructed outside of the district's period of significance as identified in the design guidelines and is 20 years outside of the district's main development period and does not exhibit the architectural styles and for which Country Club is designated, and it does not contribute to the overall significance for why the district was designated. So therefore, staff are recommending approval of the demolition of this non-contributing structure with the condition that a replacement plan be approved prior to demolition.
Brittany, thank you. Commissioners, any questions for Brittany about this application?
I just want to confirm that the on the district map provided in the staff report, the outlined property is not the correct one. It should be up north of 3rd Avenue.
Indeed, it is a block off.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
No problem.
Thanks for that clarification. Anybody else? Okay, great. Is our applicant would have to be virtual if the applicant is with us. All right, I see a hand raised. Excellent.
Can you hear us?
Yes, welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, you'll have 10 minutes to talk about your project, and before you, when you start your 10 minutes, please give us your name and addresses for our records, please.
Fantastic. Well, my name is Marcus Vesely. I'm the original applicant, and Jim Gunther here to my left is the lead designer and main presenter.
Hello. Well, I think that was summed up pretty well. I don't really have anything to add. We're just looking for demo and then construct a new home on that particular lot.
Great. Commissioners, any questions for the applicants now? Okay. All righty. Are there any public comments? Let's, before we go into deliberation, let's talk about public comments. If you're joining us virtually and would like to make a comment on this project, you can click the hand raise button in Zoom. Dial *9 on your keypad to raise your hand if you're joining by phone, or you can email landmark@denvergov.org with your name and phone number if you're having difficulty with either of those options. And at which point you'll be given 2 minutes to provide your comment. Taylor, do we have anybody? Any hands raised? I don't see any hands raised. Okay, commissioners, you didn't have any questions for the applicants? All right, then let's go ahead and go into deliberation then.
I'm curious what people think about the mullions or muttons. You know, we have the diagonal on the, you know, front and rear and side elevations. And then there's the kind of the, you know, the more modern vertical and horizontal. It's kind of mixed and matched a little bit. If anybody has any opinions.
So you're talking about, this is just the demo.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
I'm way ahead of it.
So no, yeah, you're a little ahead, that's okay.
I apologize.
Oh, are they?
Yeah, the attachments are.
Oh.
Well, they're the
Well, no,
same
they have just their one.
Yeah.
Oh.
Their one
Yeah, I think they just have one
application.
application, yeah, so that's, yeah, that's why, yeah. Yeah, I had the same conversation with myself this morning.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, this is just for the demo of it, so we're,
Understood.
yeah.
So I guess I would just, sometimes in the past, we've kind of started off with the question of, you know, is it indeed non-contributing? And I think I would agree with that assessment that we have a clear period of significance for the district, and this clearly is kind of an outlier within the country club, so I feel comfortable saying it is non-contributing, and so I just want to make that clear.
It's outside of the, yeah, absolutely. Anybody else? All right, then do I hear a motion from the floor? Mary. Thank you.
Right, one here. Madam Chair, I move to approve with conditions application number 2024-LM demo 208 for the total demolition of the non-contributing structure at 301 Gaylord Street as per design guidelines, 2.58, character defining features for the Country Club Historic District, presented testimony, submitted documentation, and information provided in the staff report. The following condition that a replacement plan is approved prior to demolition.
Larry, thank you. Do I hear a second?
Second.
And Nick has seconded it. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Alrighty, the first, the 2024 LMDMO 208 has been approved conditionally. So let's move on to our next design review project, which is at the same address, 2024-COA-572 at 301 Gaylord Street in the Country Club District. And Brittany is again our staff person. Brittany, take it away. Your computer will let you.
Okay, so our next application is for the phase 1 mass form and context review for new infill structure on the same lot. As Erica has already pointed out, the map is incorrect. It is not the structure that is outlined here. It is the structure here at the corner of East 3rd Avenue and Gaylord Street. So the applicant is proposing a new 43 by 55 and 4-inch primary structure, and it will be 33 and 3/16 of an inch tall with a we'll call it detached garage, but there is a internal connection with the garage below grade, but for our purposes it does have the appearance of an detached garage. So here you can see how the new proposal will be roughly placed on the lot. Country Club does have its own design standards and guidelines that do give a lot of guidance about placement and lot coverage. So the proposed setback will be 22 feet 6 inches. The properties to the north, which I do have a better image here, are setback 20 feet, 317 Gaylord Street, and 17 feet, 321 Gaylord Street. Both of these properties are non-contributing to the Country Club Historic District. 333 Gaylord Street is 2 houses away, and it's the first contributing structure on this side of the block and is set back approximately 27 feet. So setbacks within the Country Club neighborhood do vary, and the guidelines talk about a recommended range of 20 to 30 feet, and this structure will be set back within that recommended range. So staff are not concerned with the setback, although it does vary somewhat on this lot. Additionally, the structure will maintain the appearance of a large side yard along East 3rd Avenue, similar to the placement of the existing structure. So the guidelines do recommend maintaining the sense of broad side yards, and this placement on the lot will do that with the new structure. So staff are supportive of the placement on the lot. Here you can see the block context. Again, many non-contributing structures around this property, but this is in an area of Country Club that does have some lower scale 1-story structures. So that will be relevant later. But here is the proposed floor plans for this structure, and here you can see that tunnel that I referenced that will connect the garage to the primary structure. Again, that is all below grade, so it will have the appearance of being detached on the main level, as you can see on the main level plan. And then here we have the 2nd story plan. So generally speaking, staff do feel that the footprint of this structure is compatible with the Country Club Historic District. There are some shifts in the wall plane that staff do not find completely necessary, particularly on the ground floor. So the structure does have a shift in wall plane at the ground floor on the south elevation, which is a street fronting elevation, and it will have a gated area. This shift in the wall plane is 7 feet. It does allow for windows to be placed on these side interior elevations and add additional light into that space. However, that shift in wall plane on the second floor is not as significant, and staff have recommended to the applicant to potentially bring out that ground floor shift in wall plane, particularly as it just has to be fenced off, and this is a visible facade along East 3rd Avenue. And then there is another shift in wall plane along the primary facade along Gaylord Street at the ground floor. This is not as significant as the one on the south elevation. It's about 2 feet 6 inches. But again, you can see that the second floor doesn't, it does shift back a little bit, but it doesn't have as significant as a shift as the ground floor. So staff have recommended that those shifts in the wall plane be eliminated in the phase 2 design. We don't feel that it will overall impact the phase 1 mass form and context. We have spoken to the applicant about this, and they have decided to keep this in there. So I did want to point that out to the commission. But in terms of the overall massing, it is mostly rectangular in nature, and it is a Tudor revival, and Tudor revivals are a little bit more complex than, say, a colonial or Denver Square. So it's definitely something for the commission to debate. We do also have some concerns over the appearance of the garage, particularly just this shift in the wall plane again along the south elevation of the garage, which contributes to the overall complexity of the garage roof form, and the garage having more of appearance of a secondary living unit, which is not currently allowed within this zone district. Country Club does have some ornate carriage houses, but we don't feel that it fits in with the surrounding historic context. So we just wanted to point out those items. But here is the primary facade and the north interior side facade. The north interior side facade does have some shifts in massing as well, but we were less concerned with those as they're side interior and have less visibility from the public right of way and generally subordinate to the overall front. Here is the Gaylord Street facade. Again, you can see that recess in the massing at the front of the home, which is 2 feet 6 inches. Staff also would like to note that we do have some concerns over this dormer on the south elevation of the front facade. We have recommended to the applicant that it mirror the kind of gable proportions on the north to kind of balance it out, but mainly it's not so much that they have an in-wall dormer, it's the relationship of the window below to the dormer, and Mia's staff doesn't quite know how to square moving that window around to make it look like these in-wall dormers that you see within the surrounding historic context, which I have further photos of that the applicant has provided. And then here we have the rear facade and the south elevation. Again, the south elevation is along a secondary street, and you can see that 7-foot recess here that will have that gate in front of it. It does have a decorative Tudor style chimney that we feel fits in with the surrounding historic context very well. And then a kind of cantilever for a porch deck in the front 65 of this lot, so there are no concerns there. And then finally, you can see the garage massing here. Again, this is that bump out gable that we have concerns with over the garage, creating this overly complex valley and roof system for the garage. So we do think that this south elevation could be more coplanar and simplify that garage facade. And here are just some additional elevations of the garage. We're not concerned about this cross gable on this side of the garage, which does face the primary structure. That is pretty typical of the Country Club Historic District. It's really just the relationship of this roof form and these cross gables on this south elevation that will have a high level of visibility that staff are concerned with. So generally speaking, we are supportive of this project in terms of its height and placement. However, as it is a pretty tall 2-story structure within the neighborhood that is mostly 1 story in height. We've really asked the applicant to look closely at the surrounding historic context in terms of detailing on the Tudor revival, as this is inspired by the Tudor revival style structures. And here you can see the context study provided by the applicant. I'm going to zoom in on a few elements. So this house at 245 Ray Street is just up the street, and it does have that smaller in-wall gable, but as you can see, it is a much smaller in-wall gable than what is proposed for the historic structure, or sorry, the new infill structure. And here you can see the relationship of the window to that gable. It's really, the window is up in that gable face. So staff are again concerned about the gable, the smaller gable on the south of the new infill proposed structure. There is a bay window on the south elevation, and bay windows are a common feature within the Country Club Historic District. Staff has recommended that the applicant also use this as an opportunity to fill that bay window in entirely with glazing. However, there are some bay windows within the district that do have smaller windows in proportion, so you can see that detail here. Here is another one of those in-wall dormers, and again, those windows are really up into the face of that dormer and aligned with the roof eave, which is not proposed on the infill structure on the primary facade. So again, we have suggested just making that a slightly larger gable on that south end to mirror what is occurring on the north end. And then on the back of the home, the applicant has proposed this pretty unique dormer that is trapezoidal in design, and that is a common feature within the historic district, so we do not have concerns over that, but just wanted to show that to the commission as it is a unique feature. But here you can just generally see some overall renderings of the proposed infill development. And we do feel that it generally fits in with the Country Club Historic District. There's just a few, concerns that we have in terms of some of the articulation that we feel that could be worked out further in the design detail phase of the submittal, particularly the heavy concrete window surrounds. So again, with looking at the surrounding historic context, it's more common to see just brick headers and sills for the Tudor revival within the district. And I have asked the applicant to look at this in more detail. I still don't feel like this packet is sufficiently supporting that detail, but again, that's something that could be looked at in the phase 2 submittal. So I have made note of it in my phase 1 because I think it would be important for the commission to weigh in on that. Again, we are recommending some of these elements be simplified because this is a lower scale area of Country Club with more simple structures, and we feel like that would relate to the context a little bit more. And to some of Chris's questions already presented in the demo, we will look specifically at the windows and the mullion patterns in the phase 2 design detail, but that may be helpful to provide feedback to the applicant at this time, because some of staff's concerns were, while we don't want to make this structure boring, we do feel that this is a simpler area of Country Club and some simpler articulation could be helpful in the phase 2, but are generally supportive of the placement on the lot and the general massing of the structure.
Okay, commissioners, any questions for Brittany at this point? Larry?
Yeah, I guess I'm just wondering with the number of, even though they're relatively minor elements, the number of concerns that staff have about the shifts in plane and things like that. Is this better to do as maybe a denial than an approval with many, many conditions?
Well, I only have 4 conditions on this, and they're fairly straightforward conditions in my opinion, relating to the 7-foot recess on the south elevation, the 2-6 recess on the primary facade at the ground floor, and then restyling the gable. I think if the commission feels like they need to see it again as a phase one, that is totally acceptable. But because this does go through the two-step review, I feel like there could be minor adjustments to this design and still be looked at in the phase two. The commission again would determine if, you know, the phase one conditions were met before moving on to the phase two review. But I think they're fairly minor. Country Club has recommended approval of the project as is. And I've already talked to the applicant about some of these changes, and I think they feel strongly about these elements. So perhaps hearing from them as well would be important before making a final decision.
Great. Anybody else? Question for Brittany? All right, then our applicants, and I see that you are already with us. So again, you'll have 10 minutes to give your presentation, and please start with your names and addresses. And you can begin whenever you're ready.
And I do have your renderings, because I had to restart, I have to reopen them. So just give me a second to do that. But once I have those open, I will be ready for you to present.
That's great. Thank you.
Okay, when you're ready.
Right. Well, my name is Marcus Vesely again with Larson, but Jim Gunther is the lead designer, so he will be taking the reins on this and presenting our proposal.
Okay, thank you. I'm Jim with Larson. Again, I'm the design lead. The client came to us. He lives in this neighborhood currently and is looking to design his kind of forever house. And he wanted a smaller footprint, but still a two-story element. And with that kind of being said, it made sense to do a house that's more rectangular and a smaller elevation on the primary and a longer on third. So I kind of feel this house has really almost has two primary elevations when you look at it, where third is viewed just as much as on Gaylord. So hence the multiple gables on all phases. But can I just jump into some of the comments here from Brittany?
Certainly.
Okay. Let me go to number 4 first, because I think that just addresses the garage. The client is also looking to have car lifts, and with the height restriction as such, you know, to lift a car, you pretty much have to do a flat roof. And we explored multiple elevations for the garage to see what would look the best. And after studying that, really nothing made sense that would match the house. It just looked like kind of night and day with lower slope roof lines, because that's what it would have to do. It'd have to be like a 412 or a 312 roof line. So then we kind of came up with the idea of the double gable on third, and the rendering actually shows that roof color that could actually be painted. Maybe it's a fascia color to make it visually go away, but the double gables help us accomplish that flat section in the center to make a car lift feasible. So that's kind of why the garage has the double elevations on that Third Avenue. And as I'm looking at the drawings and checking, I think what might help this would be to that single window to the left. I think that could slide over a few feet so it doesn't look so offset compared to the main gable that has that little keystone element in it. And I think also what's prominent too is that staircase going down to that lower level walkway. That's kind of why we had those triple windows in there, to make that garage look a little more appeasing and not so, you know, utility in its appearance. So, you know, the garage does have, I would say, the appearance of an ADU, but it has a lot of architectural features that kind of match the house. So that's kind of the reasoning behind the garage kind of having those elements, is to primarily to get the roof pitches to better match the house and to make the car lift work. Okay, and then can I go into the other comments?
Please do.
Okay, so number 1 and 2, those recesses I feel are very important in the fact that it kind of lessens the mass of this house as far as especially the primary elevation where we only have the single window in what I call that reception area at the foyer by the bath. I think that recess adds a nice element of kind of lessens all the brick on this house. And I think the same kind of reason applies for the 7-foot recess as well on its third. One thing that we're trying to accomplish is get a lot of natural light, basically in the great room as well as a lower level. That's going to act like a light shaft in the space and give us more natural light. You know, certainly the railing is going to be there, but kind of a wrought iron railing is going to visually just kind of go away. And if that recess wasn't there, I think the issue would be we'd have 3 window wells right at the front of this house. And it's going to make the house even appear taller than a 2-story because you're seeing that brick going all the way down to a lower level window. So I think having that recess kind of softens the fact that we kind of basically just use the window well to our advantage and kind of hide it. I think one element we could consider is when we study that window surround more is maybe we could consider not having the stone headers for both the front and that recess. And maybe it's just more of a simple brick soldier course like we're doing on the back railing. I think visually that helps to lessen the impact of that, especially on the primary as well, where then we just have the one primary banding at the foyer. And then if we eliminate the one to the right, then they're not competing with each other. It really, I think at that point, it really softens the recess and makes it go away. And then number 3 comment was what I really want to have 3 primary gables on the front elevation. I think it lends itself to that. And I'd be a little worried about having a larger gable end that matches the north side. And then we would have basically those conflicting, kind of like almost like those farmhouse elevations where you have 2 gables that meet right on the corner. One thing to remember too is on the left side, that primary bedroom is vaulted on 3rd Street. So there's a vaulted space in there where at the front that upper dormer is more for aesthetics, where it would, when you look at it, when you're in the house on a daily basis, you know that front gable is really kind of a false element. So that's why it was kind of, in my opinion, kind of toned down and just kind of a softer gable element, where the third Street has those 2 larger gable elements that kind of define that elevation. So those are my comments, that kind of my thoughts on the comments.
Okay. Did you have anything else you wanted to say before I ask commissioners if they have questions?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay, cool.
Can we just get your address one more time?
My home address?
Work address is
Oh,
fine.
sorry. Yeah. So it's Denver, Colorado.
What's
Your
the address though?
1361 South Broadway.
Great, thank you. All right, commissioners, do you have any questions?
I do.
Nick?
As it relates to 2 of the things that you discussed, for the garage, in the lift you're proposing within the garage or your client wants, had you considered scissor truss to create that vertical clearance necessary versus the complexity of the roof and the elevations that resulted in this? Because I don't think I've ever seen a roof configuration like that on that roof, on that garage.
Yeah, we have. I mean, a scissor configuration would work. I mean, the problem is to do that, you would have an elevation that would have, like, say, a 412 roof, and then it comes up to a flat spot in the middle. And then it's really hard to elevate that with windows. You know, again, we tried parapet walls, kind of a stair-stepping what you'd see a lot of typical garages from the 30s and 40s, and nothing really meshed to the house. It wasn't a bad look, but it looked like the garage was done at a much later date than the original house. We wanted the house and the garage to match from the.
Got it. Now, not to nitpick, and maybe we're not understanding one another, I would propose that the ridge line be rotated 90 degrees. And you enter on the gable end and the scissor spans the middle so that you don't have to have a flat roof anywhere. It's just a simple ridge. Something to consider, if you haven't already.
Well, at that point, your lift wouldn't work because you're rising up, and you're hitting the side of the car.
I believe it would. Secondly, that dormer, as it faces Gaylord, the third one that we're discussing so much, and that you had said is decorative from the exterior and provides no function on the interior. And have you thought of eliminating it entirely and just having two gables on each side?
Yeah, if we eliminate that gable, I think it becomes very top heavy to the right. It looks like it's just missing something in that element.
Thank you for the explanations.
Thanks, Nick. Any other questions, commissioners, for our applicants?
I have one as well, sorry, excuse me.
No, you're fine.
You know, a lot of these Tudor revivals in the neighborhood have this kind of heavy timber element at the gables themselves. And I know you've just described the amount of brick, or that it looks quite a bit, and some of these elements, some of these design decisions are based on that. And I'm wondering if you considered maybe changing materials at these gables to kind of maybe mimic some of the Tudor revival and the neighborhood in general with the heavy timber look.
Yes, the client is requesting the house to have, zero or minimal maintenance. He really likes the look of a full brick house and brick within the gables as well. So on this one, you'll see that we only have the one element to the north where we have kind of the stucco elements, but the primary kind of views that what I would state in this house, which is Gaylord and Third, are basically all brick is what you're seeing from the street side.
I have one more question.
Sure. Chris, did that answer your question?
Yeah, I would just point out that I'm looking at a photo here on Gaylord that has the heavy timber, but I don't want to get into semantics.
Okay.
Nick. Sorry, one more question. Related to that north elevation that you just brought up in the stucco in the semi-mansard roof. Could you talk about that a little? Because to me, you have an opportunity here with a new home and a clean slate, admittedly historic neighborhood, but you have the ability to make a single statement rather than create a house that looks like it's been added to a number of times, at least in my view. And maybe you could just talk about that, your thoughts behind that in how it's justified, given the context.
Yeah, we'll see the upstairs on that north side is significantly smaller in width than down below. So that's why we have that. You can see that intersecting kind of that shed roof. And then we kind of made a decision later on to expand that laundry and have that roof kind of still have it sloping. So kind of viewed from Gaylord, you see that the roof pitch, the steep roof pitch is kind of matching the back. But it didn't make sense to, let's see if we can pull up, if you can pull up that rendering from the north side, I think that's probably showcases that better. There is not one. Okay.
Yeah,
I think on the plans, when you look at the plans, that's really hard to visualize. Where on the rendering, it's much more softer in appearance. It looks pretty stark from the drawings, but in reality, I think it's gonna mesh pretty well, even with that flat roof area that from this. Yeah, so there it is. So from there, it just looks like their house is just kind of rising up and it's just kind of an extension where that laundry room is. And again, we were trying to keep the footprint smaller and not make this house so big where it doesn't have it doesn't have a traditional appearance of a kind of a rectangle from that north side, but that's a function of just size and economy and try to keep this house at a better price point.
Thank you.
Any other questions, commissioners? Doesn't look like there are any other questions. All right, you don't have anything there. Okay, great. All right, let's see if there are any public comments for this project. Any of you joining us in virtual land, you can raise your hand button in Zoom, dial *9 on your keypad to raise your hand if you're joining by phone. You can also email us at landmark@denvergov.org with your name and phone number. Do we have somebody, Taylor? Nope, nope, we have nobody. All right. Okay, staff, any other comments before we continue?
Yeah, this is roughly the version that the neighborhood did review and recommend approval of. Again, staff has some concerns over some of the complexity, less on the north elevation where it is not visible from the public right of way. But if the commission feels that they would like to see this more developed before they move on to the phase 2, I would recommend that you, instead of the conditional approval, recommend denial, which does not mean that the project is not viable. It's just that some adjustments need to be made.
Okay. All right. Questions for Brittany? Anybody before we go on to deliberation? Excellent.
So,
Oh,
I
Rusty
have-
did
I have
have a
one.
question. Okay, cool.
I just think that the scale of this on that, in that block is massive. It's gonna be far and away. And I mean, it's reminiscent of a lot of the homes in Country Club on other blocks, a couple of blocks to the west. But it's just gonna be massive, and I'm not sure
So is that a
where
question?
we go with that.
So is that a question for you or something we should talk about in deliberation?
Well, I think you should talk about it. I think we as staff tend to agree. However, that is the character of Country Club, and this is a non-contributing. I think we as staff felt that some of the design details could be quieted down to make the massing a little more compatible, but I think that's something for the commission to discuss
Sure.
as well.
Okay, any other comments for Brittany, questions? Then let's go into deliberation. Okay, Rusty, why don't you start? You already kind of started, so let's continue.
I'm really concerned how this house is gonna sit on that particular corner. I mean, it's surrounded by much smaller houses. That Third and Gaylord block is, as diminutive a scale as there is in the neighborhood. And I have to confess that I'm not quite sure where scale, where neighborhood scale, where district scale come into conflict like this, how we resolve that. But on this site, it's a big house. On half the sites in Country Club, it's not. It's out of scale, I think, for this particular location.
Do you think that has something to do with materiality too, just the amount of brick? Or do you think that?
Yeah, I think that exacerbates it, but I think it's, just looking at the elevations, the elevations up and down Gaylord, it's significantly taller. There's a wonderful little house to the south of it, that sits up on a hill, but it's a little one-story house, and the house to the north of it is one of the larger, my recollection is it's one of the larger houses, but it still is quite a bit smaller than this. And so I'm merely, I think, pointing out that when it gets built, it's going to dominate scale and mass wise. And yeah, I do believe that the material contributes to that, but I don't think the material necessarily resolves that either.
Material and complexity, as
Yeah.
Brittany was talking about. Other commissioners, what are your thoughts about that?
I think that there will definitely be a lot of considerations for phase 2, based on what we've seen. But I think that the roof line is the most problematic for volumetric areas, I mean, it's quite, I don't wanna say disjointed, but non-integrated might be a better way to put it. I have concerns about the east elevation, as you put it, you know, a false element, and it reads that way to me. And I also have concerns about the gable on the south elevation for similar reasons, just out over the deck. It seems like that could just be eliminated. I'm assuming this is the type of discussion we're having. The massing insets, I think, simply complicate an already relatively complicated design, especially given the context. I agree that the roof line on the garage simply looks like a small house. Therefore, I understand that there's a lot of requests by the client, but there needs to be a different solution, I believe, if they want to have that element considered and integrated, or if they want that, the lift, then there needs to be a different solution for the roof line. I don't know if that's putting it too bluntly, but.
No,
That's very helpful. Anything else, Emily?
I think that a lot of what is being stated that wants to be accomplished in far as massing, I agree, could be done with the finishing, you know, especially the heaviness and the bulk of it. I think a lot of the reason that style developed in that way was to have a different aesthetic than is being presented.
So Nick, you were talking about the roof line. You have a lot of questions about
no,
that.
I think that's right, and I agree with Emily. It's overly complicated. This appears to me to be in a state of the inside was designed, and then let's put an envelope around it and get a roof that somewhat works, and it's not as far along as the interior. But unfortunately, what we're here to talk about is the mass and form and the context. So, you know, in my view, the more I hear my colleagues talking, Larry's suggestion, it may be beneficial to not leave so much to chance with details and move to deny this now. I would be in support of that.
Yeah, I would, I guess, third that as well.
Before we make a motion though, I think that it would be helpful just as a service to the client to say what our concerns are so that they can come forth with something that
Right.
might suit.
Yeah, this is a good opportunity to offer friendly suggestions. So that when it comes back to us, phase one comes back to us, they will have a better understanding of what it is that we're asking.
Next time I'll try to make mine more friendly.
Well, I mean, Brittany did a good job of starting us off with the 4 conditions, right?
Yep.
Yes.
And, you know, if anybody wants to add on to that, but I mean, that's the basis.
Well, I mean, as far as the question of scale, I feel like that's a bigger
Yeah, that's
question that I
actually-
don't really know, like how to, I don't know if you have thoughts.
It's a
on
tough thing to tell somebody
how-
they can't have as big a house as they want.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I mean, as far as lot coverage, it's pretty much within range of what the guidelines say. So is it more verticality that, and I, you know, if this is the, certainly I think the amount of vertical they have is fairly appropriate for the style that they're doing. So I guess I'm just trying to get to a place that is helpful to them. I
Yeah,
don't know. Yeah.
right. No, I'd love to be helpful.
I will jump in that the southeast corner is typically a larger massing. So there's at least that, or at least from what I've seen in Denver as far as pattern. Because of the light orientation, I believe that they tend to have the most prominent homes.
Interesting.
I like that observation.
Yeah,
That's,
yeah.
I'm going to have to.
I'm gonna go take a walk in my neighborhood after this. That's interesting.
I guess one of the things I'll put out there in terms of massing, I mean, I'm looking at the streetscape kind of elevational study on the side of, geez, this A003. It's like rotated, so it's a little bit
Yeah,
tough to read.
I'll pull it
But-
up in the PowerPoint.
Oh, that'd be great.
I
Thank you.
rotated
Thanks,
it the
Brittany.
right way.
But to me, this feels like it's not really out of scale with the block. I mean, it seems like there are a lot of, wide 2, 1.5, 1 3/4 story tall structures on this block, so it doesn't necessarily feel, at least in that context, so out of scale.
There you go.
And I'm curious what other commissioners think, kind of, yeah, we have a little bit more study of this.
I mean, just on the north side.
Yeah, I'll.
I feel like
check
it's
them
gonna,
out.
it's gonna fill the lot, that's what I'm. Especially with the size of the garage.
Can
Well,
I have
again,
that-
it's in range of
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
is lot coverage for the rest of it.
With the guy, and with the guy, if it meets the guidelines.
Yeah, it seems to be within the zoning envelope, so I guess personally, I'm not particularly, I think I agree with the staff that I think it's an appropriate scale in general. I think I'm more concerned about some of these issues of complexity
The
of roof
complexity.
form, the dormer that doesn't have any actual need to be a dormer. And yeah, the complexity, even though I think the Tudor revival style is a little bit about ramble and about kind of being intentionally a little bit whimsical, I think that there's also the balance of kind of overdoing it or doing things without necessarily functional reasons. I did buy the applicant's point about the window well in the basement driving that 7-foot setback on the east side. I think that actually makes a certain amount of sense.
Is it on the south side?
Sorry, the south side,
Yeah,
that's what I meant,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
the other east.
I agree with you, actually, that I thought that actually wasn't so problematic for me, hearing their reasoning for it, but also just, it's a little more intentional seeming, than like the kind of random 2-foot setback that's on the, east front facade.
Agreed.
And so I think that works for me, okay, but the one on the east side remains a problem, but also I'm not sure just by bringing it to plane, it actually works because of the smaller window, which is something they also brought up. So that I feel like that needs to be kind of looked at a little bit more as well. I'll just with the risk of like seeming to pile on, I guess I just wanna quickly address the question of window surrounds that isn't part of what we're talking about today, but we do wanna weigh in on to
Right.
help guide. I do agree with staff's assessment that what they have proposed is too ornate and heavy for this and may very well be, contributing to this overall. I don't think it's necessarily making the scale bigger, but just the complexity though,
It's the demeanor of the house, it's really imposing, and I feel
Yeah.
like that
yeah.
the surrounds make it more imposing and less friendly. It's very grand and it's very dominating.
Yes, yeah.
Emily.
To interject again as a friendlier comment, I might look at just playing with some of the massings of the gables with a consideration of changing the southern one on the primary side, because with the sort of whimsical aspect of Tudor, a lot of them are asymmetrical. And so maybe leaning into the asymmetry versus trying to make a slightly, different scale triad might be something for them to consider as far as massing as well.
Any other thoughts, commissioners?
Yeah, I agree about the window surrounds too.
Okay. Yeah,
it feels like we're leaning towards denial.
Yeah.
Do we feel like we've said enough to help guide them back to us? Brittany, is there things
Yeah.
that we've left out that you think we should?
I think without being overly prescriptive and designing
Mhm.
it for them, you've
Yeah.
provided good guidance
Yeah.
on
It's
it.
important to remember we're not designing.
Yeah.
Right.
So that way they can go multiple different directions to adjust.
Yeah, and that's the other advantage of denying it outright instead of a bunch of conditions, because we don't want them to be tied. All right, commissioners, it feels like we're coming to a place of agreement. Would somebody like to make a motion?
Since I was vocal, I will.
Emily,
I move to deny application 2024 COA 572 for the new construction Phase 1 mass form and context at 301 Gaylord Street as per Country Club Design Guidelines B1, B4, B1 through B4, B6, D1 through D5, F1, F3 Design Guidelines 4.1, 4.3, 4.6, 4.3, 4.8, character defining features for Country Club Historic District, presented testimony, submitted documentation, and information provided by staff report.
all right, is there a second?
Second.
Larry has seconded it. Brittany, I do have a question for you as
Sure.
staff, though. So this is a recommended motion that was to approve the conditions.
Right.
Do those guidelines stated still apply with the denial?
I was trying to follow along and it seems like they do, but
Yeah, I don't think they conflict
Okay.
In any way with, so I am comfortable. with
Okay,
the
great. I
guidelines
just
for-
wanted to double check.
Yeah, I should have clarified.
All right, Emily has made the motion and Larry has seconded it. Do I, all in favor, aye? Aye. Any opposed, nay? All right, then, since the application was denied, the applicants will work with Brittany. And so we'll see you again, look forward to seeing you again for Phase 1. Now, let's move on to our next and final design review. And this is 2024-COA-582 at 1459 Pennsylvania Street in the Pennsylvania Street District. And Amy is our staff person. Welcome, Amy. Oh, cool.
I know. We do have one more.
Yeah, well, we have the national. Amy, begin whenever you are ready.
Yes, so just take 1 second. Okay, Amy Amadon presenting the staff position on 1459 Pennsylvania Street. Which you see, sorry, can you turn your camera? Sorry. Thank you. Okay, sorry. Again, Amy Amadon presenting the staff position on 1459 Pennsylvania Street depicted here. This is a simple discussion compared to other items on your agenda tonight. We're just talking about a fence. This particular property is on the far northern boundary of the Pennsylvania Street Historic District. And just off the side of the photo here, I'll show you some clearer pictures in a moment, is a parking lot, a surface parking lot that has been in place as long, it seems, as the fencing that we're about to discuss. The applicant, the owner of this property, would like to replace a section of fence. Could you go to the next slide, please? On the left here, you see with an arrow on the north property line, there is an existing fence, which is 6 foot tall and is a opaque fence on the lower 4 feet or so, and then a trellis along the top. The applicant approached us simply to replace in kind what they already have. However, this fence was built in the 70s before the historic district, and it does not comply with today's regulations for fencing in a couple of ways, height and opacity. You see a photo there on the right showing the fence from the side and the head-in parking that's adjacent to this property. So anywhere forward of the facade of this building, the landmark guidelines ask for a fence to be no more than 4 feet tall and at least 50% open in its design. Those guidelines, which are cited in the memo that we've written to you, use the word should, that the fence should not be more than 4 feet tall and should not be more than 50% opaque. We have made findings in our recommendation to you that in this particular case, where there is this abutting condition, and there are several surface parking lots in this historic district, but in this case, with the cars pointed perpendicular to the property so the headlights are aimed directly at it, the fact that this is a long-standing condition, that this fence is decades old, and the fact that this is the boundary of the historic district, and in some ways this barrier helps to support the setting of the historic property and let them create a traditional yard. We are making findings that in terms of your design guidelines, supporting a reproduction of this fence is appropriate. There are a few other things you need to be aware of here, though. One is that the zoning design standards, which apply to all properties in the city, talk about some of the concerns that your guidelines do, but go even further with them. They disallow any fence taller than 4 feet in front of the front facade, and the language is stronger in terms of not allowing that. There are paths for exceptions. They also say that if an exception is made to height, that the 50% opacity kicks in. So they're looking for, if that fence exceeds 4 feet, that it be 50% open. We're between a rock and a hard place here. And so the staff recommendation is that LPC make a finding that your guidelines are met and that we ask the zoning administrator to make an exception to their standards, that they allow, again, a replication of the fence that already exists. They allow it to be taller than 4 feet, and they allow it to be more opaque than the standards call for. Next slide, please. Here's a side view of that fence from the parking lot, and here's a drawing of the fence that is proposed. One of the things that's suggested in the recommended motion, what's represented here is that the top 1.6 feet of the fence be trellis. The motion suggests that you be flexible and allow that to be increased up to as much as 2 feet of the top of the fence to be transparent, again, hoping to satisfy zoning's requirement. If the fence is taller than 4 feet, they're looking for greater opacity, just trying to find a balance here. Brittany, could you go back one slide? I apologize. One last quirk that we should be aware of is that the fence that exists now actually passes the front property line to connect with the wall that's at the front of the property, both of which are in the right of way. They were permitted by zoning in the 70s, but no encroachment license is on record. So the applicant is going to need to work with Dottie. You can only approve the fence to go to that front property line. If it's going to come up to meet that brick pier that exists now, they're going to need Dottie's cooperation. In the alternative, the applicant is considering planting landscaping. I should say, if LPC does not support replication of the existing fence, the applicant could also install landscaping, which might create more of a barrier. It would serve their purposes to screen the property, but might create more of a visual barrier for the public to be able to observe the building. So staff, again, is supportive of recreating this existing condition and happy to answer any questions if you have them.
I thought you said that was gonna be less complicated than. Oh, Amy, what?
Would you mind putting the last slide up just so that you can see the recommendation? Thank you very much.
Commissioners, do you have any questions for Amy?
So I guess I just want to make sure, in the past when we've done, are we making a recommendation to the zoning administrator today? And if so, like we've done in other, where we're saying, you know, we're okay with it going beyond the bulk plane because it, by doing so, it better meets our guidelines. Do we need language of that?
No, and sorry if I skipped over that, that was touched on in the LPC does have the authority to grant administrative approvals to vary from various dimensional standards. But the criteria is that it's for the best of the resource, that there's a reason that your exception supports and preserves the historic structure. We don't really find that's the case here. There are things about this that are positive, as I've described, things that support the landscape condition being an appropriate setting for the structure. But there's no adverse effect on the historic resource if you don't approve the fence height. We struggled with our recommendation initially, feeling, oh, it should be lower, but again, brought ourselves around to this being an appropriate solution for this site-specific condition, but we don't recommend LPC grant an exception. We recommend that you allow the zoning administrator to make that decision. If they don't, again, applicant can repair the existing fence, build a fence in conformance, or plant landscaping.
I could also go to the Board of Adjustment, and while they don't necessarily need like an LPC recommendation, like knowing the LPC is part of the design can be sufficient.
Okay, great. Any other questions for Amy? No? All right, then do we have our applicant with us doing it virtually, Taylor? Yeah. Hello.
I think we have Mimi representing the applicant.
Okay. Hello.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you. Thank you.
Sorry about
You will, no, that's fine. You'll have 10 minutes to make your presentation, and at the beginning, please give your name and address for our records, please.
Okay, my name is Mimi Kutchman. I'm actually the property manager representing the ownership. My address is 5951 South Middlefield Road, Suite 100, Littleton, 80123. And please excuse me, I have a horrible cold.
Oh, geez.
I was home all
That's
weekend, so
okay.
I
You
sound a
sound-
bit like a frog.
You sound fine.
I believe that everything that Amy had to say was right, spot on. We're basically just trying to put back what is there. I believe that if you go down to 4 feet from the front of the building with the 50%, to after we get an approval, hopefully from Dottie for connecting it to that front pillar, it will kind of defeat the purpose, and the headlights will still be coming in from the parking lot, as well as there's been a lot of homeless activity. We've had a lot of trouble there managing it. They're cutting through on the back side of that building is an alley, and part of the fence they've pushed down because it's 50 years old. I mean, there's not much left to it. You can basically push it over when we took it. And by doing it, we're kind of putting it back about 6 inches from where it is. It's kind of coming along straight there, but it's gonna abut to the tree you see in that front corner, and goes to the tree. And then from the tree, which Dottie has to decide, there's about 6 inches between the tree and the pillar that we were talking about doing plantings if necessary. Let's see, what else was I gonna say? As she mentioned, it's the end of the historic district, so I feel that it doesn't impede on anything having to do with design, because the building, you have a parking lot and then you have a building right on Colfax, which is completely different as far as design goes. That's basically all that I wanted to add.
Okay, great. Commissioners, do you have any questions for me? Okay, terrific. Doesn't sound like there are any questions for you. I hope you feel better. All right.
Thank you.
Amy, did you want to say anything additionally? All right,
Public comment.
let's go to the public comments and see if there's anybody out there in virtual land that would like to make a comment about this project. We have one person. That's great.
Good afternoon. Hopefully you can hear me.
We can hear you really well. You'll have to-
Wonderful.
Yeah.
This is Courtney Kennedy, and we inherited the building 1459, the front historic mansion, from our parents, and we own units A and C in the building. And we just want to thank Landmark's time and, Amy, your efforts in this, as well as Mimi, and putting a presentation forth on our behalf. And just to reiterate, this has been, that parking lot, as you can see, has been you know, a challenge for us as owners, and I think Mimi touched on it, and Amy, your report as well, which we sure do appreciate, but just want to emphasize, if anything, we could to continue to have the protection, because there is a safety issue with that parking lot over the years that we really have seen challenges that we're very concerned if we go below the 6 foot, you know, limit. Furthermore, with the, you know, open element that we're talking about from zoning, et cetera, that it could diminish the safety of the building. And if anything, I think which was said in the presentation as well, that having the fence, I think highlights the historic nature of the building versus takes away from it, because then you don't see, unfortunately, that parking lot that has been dilapidated for years and a gathering place for the homeless. And you know, we unfortunately are right around, there's some bars in the neighboring area as well. So unfortunately is a gathering spot. So we just wanted as homeowners to kind of put in our 2 cents worth as well, of this, you know, nature of this. And to keep it the same as we've had dating back to the 70s now, this fence, and to keep the nature of that in protection. Because we have had that same fence in for a long time. We understand that zoning also has to approve it, but my understanding, if Landmark signs off, that potentially we may have a better result with zoning as well, understanding the nature that this is an unusual property next to ours. We're the end of the historic district, and they're, you know, with no doing of our own, we're next to a parking lot that creates some challenges for our property.
Yeah, terrific. So you're part of the applicant team, which is fine. There's plenty of time. Can I get your name and address again for our records?
Yes, absolutely. Courtney Kennedy. And it is 1459 Pennsylvania, units A and C. It's in the estate of our parents. And my address, my specific address is 9408 Mystic Court. And that's Parker, Colorado, 80138.
That's great. That's perfect. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. All right. Then let's go see again if we have any public, random public comments. Doesn't look like it. Don't see any other hands raised. Okay, great. Then, Amy, any other comments?
No, thank you.
Okay, great. Commissioners, let us go into deliberation.
Is it contributing?
Yes.
It is contributing.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with staff's assessment of the importance of why keeping the fence essentially as it is design-wise makes the most sense for this historic property, given its location in the district at the edge, the impact of the parking lot next door to it, et cetera. So I would agree with the staff's recommendation.
Okay, that's Erica. Anybody else?
Can I just ask for a point of clarity?
Of course.
Based on zoning, I mean, that's the front yard consideration. So when it abuts the, so basically the first, 25 feet setback is really what we're considering in terms of the zoning. And then the rest of it would be able to be replaced as a side yard.
Yes, the
Fence.
rest of the fence from the front facade towards the rear is all appropriate and conforming.
So that would be basically 10 of the 13 parking spots as far as their, like the light issues that they're talking about. I understand the safety considerations where you'd want to have an extended fence, but I just wanted to kind of narrow our focus. If that makes sense.
Is that accurate, Amy?
Well, you are being asked to approve the entire fence,
Correct.
but that rear portion of it you described is conforming. Staff could approve it. It's really not something that we're asking for you to make any special consideration.
As far as
for.
the variance specifically.
Yeah, we're replacing in kind. I mean, I think that makes perfect sense.
Okay, Chris, thanks.
I don't
Anybody
have
else?
an issue.
Okay, cool. Do I hear a motion?
I'll make the motion. I move to approve with conditions application number 2024-COA-582 for a 6-foot tall opaque wood fence, including a 1 foot 6 inch section of open trellis at the top. at 1459 Pennsylvania Street as per design guidelines 5.2, 5.5, and 5.6. Presented testimony, submitted documentation, and information provided in the staff report. If additional fence transparency is required by the zoning administrator, an increase to 2 feet of open trellis at the top of the fence is approved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Nick has seconded it. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? All right, it has passed. Amy, thank you. The applicant will work with Amy to get a certificate of appropriateness. Now, we do have one more, that is the conclusion of our design review projects, but we have a business item. Becca Deershow is here to talk to us about the Owl Club, which is being at 2815 Madison Street, being nominated for National Register.
Can you go through the business item process?
Oh, I certainly can. The chair will announce each business item on the agenda. The staff will introduce the business item. Commissioners can question the staff. Public comment period for this process is 2 minutes per person. If you would like to speak regarding a specific project and you are not part of the applicant team, please click the hand raise button. For those calling via phone, dial *9 to raise your hand. If you are having difficulty with either hand raise option, email landmark@denvergov.org with your name and phone numbers. The staff will clarify if necessary, commission will deliberate, and then commission will make a motion and vote. Becca,
Excellent, thank you.
tell us about the Owl Club.
Yeah, the item before you today is a National Register nomination for the Owl Club, which is located at 2815 North Madison Street. Just as a reminder, in accordance with Colorado's Certified Local Government Guidelines, as a CLG, nominations to the National Register of Historic Places must be presented to the Local Preservation Commission, that's you all, for review and comment as it gets forwarded through the process. So I'll just go give you a brief overview of the Owl Club and why it's been highlighted for its significance. And of course, I'll just give a plug. This is part of History Colorado's initiative, Heritage for All, which is trying to increase the number of designations on the National Register that are associated with historically excluded communities. So the building at 2815 Madison Street was built in 1951, and it served as the Owl Club of Denver from 1960 through the present day. The Owl Club was a historic organization whose mission was and is continued, to promote the diversity, inclusion, and respect for African Americans in the city. Its members and other associations with the organizations have included some of Denver's most notable figures in Denver's African American community, as well as other Denverites who have made important contributions elsewhere in the country. You can see a picture on the left of the original Owl Club, and it was so named because they were a bunch of men who liked to stay up late, and one of their wives called them an Old Owls Club, a Night Owls Club. So I thought that was just a great story. Are you doing the slides, Brittany?
Yes.
Thank you. One of the most important aspects of the Owl Club and its location here in particular was the planning and support activities for the annual event, the Debutante Cotillion. This began in 1951. This is the first recorded Debutante Cotillion in the city of Denver, and the first event solely dedicated for African American women with a different intent than something that we usually think of when we think of debutantes and their coming out parties. So in this community in particular, this became a space created to defy stereotypes placed on Black Americans and their culture. Debutantes in the Owl Club, rather than preparing women for marriage and acceptance into high society, were prepped with professional development, networking, and other aspects such as being accustomed to being in spaces outside of their community, their protected communities, and in regular society. The ball strove to showcase women who defined values such as civic service, academic achievement, and the continuing of education beyond high school. We have a couple of pictures of the first cotillion as well as a later one. thought I would point out that on the right, we have the cotillion from 1971. Fourth from the left in the back row is future US Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice, who was a really important member of Denver's Black community. And then fifth from the right in the back row is future Denver Council, City Council President, Director of Denver Parks and Recreation, member of Denver Public School Board. I'm hoping a lot of you know who she is. Happy Haynes, who has really served an important role in Denver's civil service. So although this building may not look like it has architectural significance, we do want to keep in mind that the National Register looks at things a little differently than Denver landmarks, so they don't need to have multiple levels of significance. And as this application pointed out, this building is significant under criteria A at the local level for its areas of ethnic heritage, Black and social history, with a period of significance beginning in 1960 when the Owl Club purchased the building to 1974, which is a date 50 years in the past, as that is the cutoff date for National Register buildings. So we recommend that the National Register nomination be forwarded to the keeper of the National Register.
Becca, thank you. Are there any questions for Becca about this application?
Are there any plans, is there for the building in general, or is it just, has that been discussed at all, or is it?
I believe that it will just be continue to be owned and operated by the Owl Club, but I don't know of any plans.
Okay, that's it. All right, let's see if there's anyone out
We-
there. Oh, go
We
ahead.
don't actually have anyone
We
joining
don't
us
have anybody
virtually,
joining us,
so,
okay, then never mind.
I don't believe we need to call for comments. It's just staff here now.
It's just staff. Or not that we don't care what staff has to say. All right, commissioners, then let us go into deliberations. If you don't have any questions for Becca, what are your thoughts?
It's a really great piece of history and, yeah. Hardly support it.
I was totally excited because that's my neighborhood. I was like, oh, I know that house, I know that house. Three of them are gone, the residences, at least three of them are gone, but most of the houses are still there, which I thought was really exciting.
I really enjoyed learning about it.
Yeah.
Very cool organization.
Yeah, and in fact, years ago, I worked at St. Joseph Hospital with a woman that had been at the cotillion, which I thought that was really cool. Anybody else?
The historic photos are awesome.
Mhm.
They're really cool. So yeah, I totally support.
And as far as sense of place, the interior is exactly.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Then do I hear a motion from the floor?
Madam Chair, I move to recommend that the National Register nomination for the Owl Club of Denver at 2815 Madison Street be forwarded to the keeper of the National Register of Historic Places per presented testimony, submitted documentation, and information provided in the staff report.
Do I hear a second? A second. Erica has seconded it. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we will send that on to the keeper. Thank you very much, Becca. All right, is there anything else for the good of the order?
There is nothing official
Nothing official?
today.
Okay, all right. Anything unofficial for today? No. All right, then I will adjourn the meeting. It is 2 after 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Thank you, everybody.